You enter a movie theater. You find your seat, popcorn in hand, the lights dim, the screen turns on, and for the next 120 minutes or so, you are completely submerged into another reality. What if I told you that the same thing has been happening to you for decades, except you never knowingly bought the movie ticket? Today, I'm going to reveal to you how your entire perspective on life might be warped. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Leeor Alexandra. Welcome to the Baby Elephant community. On this channel, we usually talk about self-development, spirituality, aliens, law of attraction, all that good stuff. But today, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent because I think it's important. This is a consciousness expanding piece of content, a piece of information that I just feel called to share with the collective. I hope you'll give it a chance, I hope you'll like it, and I'd love to continue the conversation in the comments below. When we think of spy movies, of spies in movies, often we think about like James Bond, right? These really cool, secret, undercover missions. Well, according to former Soviet KGB spy Yuri Bezmenov, the work the KGB did in the 1960s was a lot more about psychological warfare than it was about seducing diplomats, bullets, and fast cars. In the 1970s, after decades of working to dismantle the West on behalf of the Soviet Union, Yuri actually defected to Canada, where he went on to reveal how the Soviets have been infiltrating the West to bring down Western governance for many years. He did this through a work called A Love Letter to America, which he published under a pseudonym. What he revealed condenses down into 4 steps of bringing down a nation. I know you might be confused right now and ask, what does this have to do with this channel, Leeor? What are we going to learn from here? We are going to learn something, I promise. Give me a chance. This process called subversion, the 4 steps of infiltrating another nation on behalf of another nation that wants to dominate that nation through ideology, it's really important because it robs the population of its ability to process through valid information. So basically, this process allows a foreign power to infiltrate a nation, to feed it lies, and simultaneously rob that nation of its ability to discern and to sort through fact and fiction. Why is this important? Because we know that a lot of what we've been fed in our own lifetimes is indoctrination, socialization, programming, and conditioning. Now, I don't claim to know why or who is behind this or who is doing this right now in 2020. I'm sure that there are people who are much more immersed and invested in world politics than I am can start to theorize about that. I'm not even going to go there. But I am a critical thinker, and I know that you guys are too. And when I receive a certain amount of information that changes the way that I look at the world, I like to spread that information so that other people can start to think critically as well. So we are going through the Great Awakening right now. We are in the midst of it. Everything is going according to plan. Now, this plan, I think that the people who have been trying to subvert the West, subvert the US and other countries around the world as well, were not expecting the Great Awakening to happen at the same time as their plans was coming to a culmination. People are waking up to the true nature of reality. They're seeing through the illusion. We are realizing that we've been lied to, that we've been socialized not only to behave in certain ways, but to think in certain ways. That's right, the way that you actually think may have been taught to you. Actually, it was definitely taught to you. And we have to undo that. For some of us, this conditioning goes so deep that it's embedded into the very fabric of our understanding of reality. And so some of us may never be able to undo the weaving of this illusion. But I do have hope and faith that the majority of us will be able to see through the fog. And we will show love and support and assistance to the ones who are still struggling to get there. I don't claim to have the answer to anything, the solution to anything. And I'd like to say that I believe that many countries, especially the US, could really use a major upheaval in all areas of our life and our culture to actually be conducive to a healthy human society. I do believe that we've been living in the wounded masculine and that something needs to change. However, this plan is not what's going to change that. What's happening to us right now is not what's going to change that. And I'm going to get into these 4 steps. I also believe that we all want the same thing. We all want our countries to be a good place for all people, for everybody to be equal regardless of race, sex, sexuality, class, religion, culture, whatever it is that divides us. We want our countries to be a good place for everybody. We all want that. If you're watching this video, I know that you want that. If you're in this community, I know that that's what you want. The issue is that there are some negative powers and negative people in this world who are willing to take advantage of our good hearts and our good deeds and hijack our most precious causes to get us to do what they want us to do, to work for their own agenda. That means that they don't have the same desire for an outcome of peace and goodness that we all do, but they're pretending that they do. And so without any further ado, I would like to present to you the 4 steps to bringing down a nation for the benefit and advantage of another nation, according to a former Russian spy. The first step of this subversion process is demoralization. This process takes 15 to 30 years, which is about the time that it would take to completely brainwash one generation of students. So demoralization, and I'm going to be looking at my notes, it's aimed at the morals of a nation, at the ideas, at the structure, at the lifestyle of a nation. Now, this is the step in which reality really starts to get warped for people. The way that it's done is through the manipulation of the media and of academia. False information is spread like wildfire. Socialization and programming occurs in schools. The whole fake news thing happens. And when it is corrected, that correction is swept under the rug. No one really ever learns the truth or ever really cares. We just go with the sensationalist headlines. In academia, history is revised. The negative aspects of history is highlighted, and any positives is not talked about. So there have been examples of this in the past, such as Western civilization is evil. I would argue that a current example of that now could be that America is inherently racist. Now, that is not to undermine the significance of slavery in American history. Absolutely not. It is so important that racial solidarity is at the top of our agenda in our minds this year and always. And yet someone who is behind this is trying to tap into that frustration, tap into that heartache, and take advantage of that for their benefit. Not for us, not for the community, not for the population, not for equality and equity. In this stage of the process, the population, with a huge majority of that being college-age students and around that age, they're taught to live in resentment of their oppressors or their nation, so to distrust the nation. Number 2 is destabilization. So destabilize the country's economy, foreign relations, and defense systems. If we haven't seen that all around the world in 2020, then I don't know where I've been. Definitely in the US, our economy has been destabilized, our foreign relations are weak, and our defense systems, just everything is weak right now. But more than anything, our society, the fabric of society and law has been destabilized. Now, again, I'm not saying whether this is good or bad. I'm in no position to make a judgment on that. I'm just saying that it looks like we are literally going through every step of this process right now that was outlined in the 1970s that we were warned against. So basically what happens in the destabilization stage is that traditional family values are undermined. They're replaced with political values and themes. They replace individual values of self-reliance and initiative with hesitation and doubt. Free thinking is not only criticized, it's also criminalized. People lose their jobs. This is where cancel culture comes in the destabilization process. In this stage, we would also move over from a society that still has people who have a relationship with, religion and God and spirituality, and now the state is kind of this almighty ruler. So we become a lot more dependent on government here. So destabilization could, for example, happen through a pandemic that causes losses of many lives, loss of many jobs, the crash of the economy. The intent of this step is to force the government to become very intrusive in our lives, such as enforcing mask wearing, which of course, I wear a mask everywhere I go, don't worry. But putting government in our homes. We're always talking about government. Government is always on our minds. Remember when the president wasn't on our mind every single day? Remember that? Remember when politics wasn't the only thing that we were thinking about? This is part of the plan. Make government very intrusive to us. Or when we had the protests and the riots, call in the National Guard. Just put the government and the power right in our faces. So this step takes 2 to 5 years to perform. It's heavily aided by the media, and it's supported by schools, by education, who influences the youth. At this point of the process, benefits are promised to the population to encourage their support. We've seen this across the aisle. We've seen this from the conservative and from the liberal side. They are waiving support during this pandemic. They're waiving their financial support, right? Our money back to us because of this pandemic, in exchange for us voting for either or, right? Number 3, the third step in the subverting of a nation is crisis, creating crisis. If we haven't seen that, then I will eat my shoe. So we need a crisis that divides the country, gotta divide the country. We are more divided than ever here in the US and in other places as well. I know that this is not exclusive to the US, and create panic amongst its citizens. I think we have the most anxious society of all time in 2020. So this goes hand in hand with destabilization, of course, since crisis can bring a country to its knees. And we've seen that with the pandemic, and again with the protests and with the riots. And so during this part, again, they use our goodwill, they use our desire for equity, equality, equal opportunity, for racial solidarity, for community, for connection. They take that and they pervert it, right? And when it's perverted in this way, when it's used against us, we think we're working towards what we want, but really we're working towards the agenda of somebody else. So crisis always happens under the guise of social unrest. So people have to be mobilized, right? Mobilize agents and influencers. At this point, we really have to put a lot of influence on the negative. That's why the media is constantly teaching the negatives. Academia goes hand in hand with that. Any news of success is suppressed. We only see the bad on the news. And during crisis, what will often happen, we haven't seen this happen yet, but what will often happen is leadership will then be swiftly shifted. Now, of course, this could be what's going to happen in the US with the elections. I don't know if that falls under the crisis process of this. They want to quickly replace leadership kind of without anybody's consent, and give them sweeping powers that exceed the limits of the law. Again, I'm not saying that that's what's happening in November. I'm saying that that falls under crisis. We haven't seen that happen. I know that there were some conspiracy theories that were saying that some shadow government is going to step up and take control. We haven't seen that happen. So we perhaps are in stage 3. I believe it's very possible that we are in stage 3. Now, stage 4 is called normalization. This is the final stage when the public gives in. The population gives in. We give up. We give up. So a new administration or a new power structure is accepted. Our history is erased. Power is consolidated, and a new agenda begins to advance. The agenda begins to be revealed, right? So we always thought that we're fighting for this one thing, and this goes on both sides of the aisle. Whatever your political beliefs are, we're being manipulated from both sides, from all sides, all across the board. So let's say once this election happens and whoever wins, a new agenda will be revealed. Either way, no matter what, the real agenda. So in normalization, previous laws, policies, and practices are replaced. Anybody who resisted has to be re-educated. This is straight out of 1984, I swear. History is erased. We've seen icons, monuments, historical buildings, grave sites, art, and literature being erased. Don't know much about that, but I think that there was a reason for that. And the new agenda is advanced. So now you know the 4 steps to subversion of a nation. Does that sound like something that's happening in your country? If you're in the US, do you feel like we're undergoing this process? What do you feel about it? What do you think about it? If you want to know what I think that we need to do, is I think that we need to wake up, right? We got to break out of the matrix. We got to start paying attention to every decision and every belief that we hold, and seeing, well, where does this actually come from? Where do these beliefs come from? Is it ours, or was it given to us? Was it taught to us? And is it serving our agenda? Do our actions actually create the changes that we'd like to see in the world? Where did this information come from? And do your own research. The most important thing from all this is to not follow the pack. Don't follow the herd, because these negative powers, they rely on us just doing what everybody else is doing, regurgitating information from other people. Don't even trust me. Do your own research. I did my own research, and I'm constantly doing my own research. And be on alert. And remember that, yeah, things need to change 100% all across the world. I believe that change starts as individuals and as communities, from the bottom up, not from the government down. I think we need less government interference, more people stepping into their power and leading their communities. If you agree with me, then you probably agree that subversion is something that's happening to us right now. I know that this is different from what I usually talk about, but I am passionate about it, so I wanted to share it with you. If you don't agree with what I said, that's also totally cool. Let's talk about it in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. I'm all about free speech. Let's talk. Let's not censor each other. Let's not censor ourselves. Let's have real conversations. I really enjoyed doing the research on this and creating this video. If you liked it, and if you want more videos with kind of like paradigm shifting information like this, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me. If you're not already part of the baby elephant community, please subscribe. Thank you so much. And I hope that despite the bleak information, you can still keep your vibrations way up.